Over time, what these four horsemen can actually contribute to is unhelpful communication styles that get us stuck in an unhealthy interaction pattern. So have you guys actually ever played catching when you were young? If you have played catching before, you know the rules of the game. That at least minimally it takes two to play. Okay, so you have two people to play catching. What's the rule of the game? Someone must run and someone must chase. The whole idea is for the runner to not get caught, and the chaser is to catch the other person. For couples who are not communicating effectively, they tend to play a lot of catching. Pardon me if, let's say, you're not quite able to see the screen. So if I could introduce you right at the top, if we go clockwise at about 12 o'clock, you will see that generally a typical pattern starts with one party feeling anxious over something, and more often than not, it can be something quite trivial, relatively trivial. But once the other party gets the perception that something is coming, okay, yeah, something chased me, right? He or she can get anxious. And what happens next? Very often, the two tendency is either we fight or flight. There's indeed a cycle for couples who engage in fight, but perhaps we'll talk about it in the next session. For today's session, I would say that more often than not, most couples actually tend to avoid communicating when they feel threatened, because most couples actually, by and large, they don't want to fight, at least not when they are at the point of they need to fight all the time. And as with any good gamer, when you see, if you walk through the whole cycle over here, you find that the more one person run, when you are a very good gamer, the other person will chase. And you run faster, the other person will run even faster to chase you down. So for people who are with us, for audience who are with us last week, kind of like Jeanette and James was there with me to illustrate some of the ideas. I'm going to invite Jeanette and James back into our session and see what happened to them. Take a look. Jeanette may start off very casually one evening, thought that James seems a bit distant recently. So she started to ask him what was wrong. How did James respond to that? James actually was feeling quite stressed out at work recently and did not want to engage in any conversations. He knows himself, when he's stressed out, he's not good at communicating. He does not want any argument with Jeanette. So his response to her was, everything is well, nothing's wrong. Jeanette responded. Jeanette had this response in her. She felt that James was brushing her off. What do you mean nothing is wrong? It's quite clear something is wrong with you. So she told him that quite clearly there's something going on with you. James couldn't understand why must Jeanette blow up things all the time and just said to her, you are thinking too much. Uh-oh, if you pay attention to the horseman just now, something is coming. Jeanette is being stirred over there. Jeanette suddenly felt accused and she starts retaliating. She commented to James that you're always avoiding things. One horseman led to another horseman. James felt attacked and did not want to engage anymore. It's like he doesn't want any further conflict. He knew it's coming again. So he didn't want to engage in any conflict. He basically just told Jeanette, let's drop it. Jeanette told James that she couldn't understand why James has to be so difficult. She really hates this part about him and she hates him for being such a jerk. That really rubs James off the wrong way, and James totally felt that he can never be right and he decided to walk away. So do you see how actually in a conflict, in an initial complaint, what started off maybe potentially as a very, perhaps I wouldn't say trivial maybe, but maybe kind of a neutral way of phrasing a complaint, when it's not managed well, it can escalate very, very quickly into all the poor communications that we talk about. Yet, if we can just pause and think about our partner's behavior, almost akin to the iceberg, you could see an iceberg in my background. Very often, the behavior is it is a manifestation of many, many unspoken perceptions, emotions, and very unmet needs. Jeanette over here was probably seeking out affirmations and closeness with James. And James wanted space and not hurt their relationship when he's in a foul mood. But you could see that over here, in this pattern that I've drawn, neither of them was able to communicate that with each other effectively. So it's kind of like they were very focused on the behavior. They got triggered by the behavior and the words, and they couldn't get themselves to understand and know what sits behind all this behavior. With that said, it is not going to be easy if couples has been stuck in a pattern, and it might take quite a bit of time and very consistent effort to rebuild confidence in communicating with one another. I think in our past 2 sessions, we get a lot of questions pertaining to what if, okay, now that I know all these things, how do I get my partner to talk to me? I think one of the keyword is perseverance. After a while, you realize that when we are so confident of that's how we communicate, it does take a little bit of rebuilding of confidence and trust in the way that we communicate for the other party to be willing to start communicating with us in a very different manner. So let's try to take a leap of faith to support our communication, our relationship. Let's create the environment to try to see how we can do things differently. So I'm going to use the acronym LEAP. And what does LEAP mean? L, listen to understand, then to respond. Very often, I have to say that I'm totally guilty of that. Sometimes, especially when we think that we know our partners too well, we kind of preempt their response, and before we could really listen to what they wanted to say, we first actually in our mind, okay, we were very quiet, we were very smart. Very often, we have learned enough over time not to interrupt. Okay, that's something that we do pretty well as as a behavior. But while we don't interrupt verbally, what very often happens is actually our mind has been interrupted. When we hear something, we start thinking of how do we want to respond to our partner. We start thinking of, okay, I think where he or she is coming from, what I'm going to tell him or her. You kind of rehearse in your mind, and the moment your partner starts to take a breath, you hear a pause, you immediately jump in. And sometimes for some people, they can't even wait for that pause. They immediately say, okay, look, tell you what, you can't quite attend to your partner unless you know where he or she is coming from. Without knowing where he or she is coming from, you're attending to his or her problem from your perspective, not his or her. Okay, so I'd like to encourage you to listen to understand. Only then you can respond appropriately. Emotional safety. I think I spoke a little bit about that just now and in the past 2 sessions. Sometimes over time, when we learn that communication in this relationship, or at least my past relationship or my past observation of how people communicate has taught me that communication is very unsafe. I can't do this. I can't communicate. See, some people get very aroused solely by hearing, I don't know if you're one of them, but what is your relationship with a statement like, can we talk? 3 words, can we talk? Very often, these 3 innocent words is enough to get people to start concocting in their mind, okay, when someone tells me, can we talk? It must be something bad. I do not know what is this going on again. So once again, when you're in that state of mind, right, what do? You gear up, you prepare yourself to go into that talk. Okay, you can say you are ready for talk, but you already kind of feel a little bit unsafe because you feel that you might not know what's coming. You prepare yourself to go in. So it might actually suggest that for communication to be healthy in a relationship, or in fact, I wouldn't quite say suggest, I would probably actually quite confidently say, unless we feel safe enough, and I use the phrase safe enough instead of completely safe, it's hard for us to be completely safe because there are just so much uncertainty in humans' life in general. So if we don't feel safe enough with our partner, it's a bit hard to communicate. Third, agree to disagree. After hearing one another out, it does not necessarily mean that we agree with the other party. And it's not about bringing the other persons to your perspective. You don't want to kind of clone another you in your relationship. And the fact is, we all come with our own life experience, our own family upbringing, our own social peers, socialization. So there will definitely be times that we disagree. Are we able to have the ability in our relationship to say, actually, it's completely fine for us to disagree. We don't have to agree on every single thing. You can have your view. I can have my view. And it's okay. And this is not passive aggressive. It's not a, you can have a view and I still disagree with you. Okay. It is important to say, I know we don't agree and I think it is okay. Yeah. Fourth thing about creating environment, pace. Pace is very important because once again, we are all individuals. We have our own uniqueness. We all respond very differently in a relationship. Some people are very eager to communicate. Some people are not. For example, if you recall my pursuer withdrawal pattern just now, you tend to find in a pattern, there will be one party who finds waiting for us to talk about that issue another day very, very nerve-wracking. But there will be sometimes you are dating or you are married to another person who actually feels that if you make me respond then I cannot, I can't, I will end up saying all the things that I don't mean because I'm a person who needs to sit down and process how I think before I can speak. So you see, you need to know your partner well enough to know how to pace your communication with your partner. Okay, so hopefully with the leap, we are able to take this leap of faith to create that kind of environment for us to try to communicate differently. So what about communicating differently? Thankfully, Gottman and team, other than telling us what don't work, they have also kind of given us the antidote to the horseman. So in terms of talking about, the first one that we talked about was criticism. To counter criticism, we want to be able to focus on the thoughts and feelings. Wanting to talk about disagreement, express a complaint is usually not the easiest conversation between a couple. Try warming up the context, which is why Gottman actually suggests gentle startup. Let's try to warm up the context a little bit and invite our partner into the conversation instead of trapping him or her to do so. As we've seen that when you trap a person into a corner and says, talk to me right now, just now the withdrawer, pursuer cycle, you'll see that very often the more you chase, the more the other person runs. That tends to result in a lot of undesirable outcome. So to counter criticism, focus on using I statement like I mentioned earlier on instead of you statement. Share with your partner what your needs are and not what he or she is doing wrong. An example, I feel, see, sometimes, right, so very often this takes a lot of practice. Don't get me wrong in saying that this is easy peasy. In fact, usually when I work with couples, I get them to rehearse a lot inside the therapy room together with me. We kind of like, let's try to do this because this is not the usual way we communicate by and large. More often than not, we speak whatever that's on our mind. So sometimes I give you a very interesting examples I remember hearing. So I say, tell your partner how you feel and what you need. So the example that I've heard was, I feel you have been very lazy. I need you to be a better partner. Okay, so it sounds perfectly right? So the person was trying to use the I feel and I need. No. I know I did tell you to say use feel and need, but not in this way. Rather, right, reach within yourself and ask yourself, what do you feel about the situation and not about your partner's character? So not about your partner's laziness. What do you feel about the situation? Some words that you may consider when we talk about emotions include maybe words like, I mean, of course, there are more positive words, but we are talking about conflict, right? It usually comes up during conflict. So some of the words that you may use to express your feeling could include things like upset, disappointed, neglect, confused, etc. Okay, so these are about your feelings. So when you talk about your need, you're talking about not what you need the other person to do, but rather what you need support in. So earlier on, we had this example, you're so selfish where you only think about you being tired. What about me? If you use a gender startup, if you use a warming of context style, you could say things like, I feel quite overwhelmed managing the household chore by myself, and I need some help. Can I get your help, please? Can you see the difference between these two statements, even though it is actually very similar to say that I need some help in this household chore. I cannot just do all these things by myself. Okay. So let's talk about the second antidote. Remember how contempt is the greatest predictor of divorce? So we want to pay attention to that as much as possible and make sure that we can avoid that whenever we can. We engage in affirming and appreciative language to build the positive atmosphere in the relationship. In fact, I very often tell couples, instead of catching your partner doing bad, it's very common. Every single session they come in, right, they'll tell me what the other person has done bad. It's almost like they are the police woman or policeman. I will tell you what he or she did after our last session, okay? So very often I hear the not so nice things. And usually I tell them, try to catch your partner doing good. And you find that over time, if you are able to tell your partner every single time you see him or her doing good, over time you start to see a more confident, a more appreciated partner who's actually feeling a lot safer sharing his or her thought, because he or she knows that you can see the good in him or her. For our new friends, actually for the past 2 sessions, I kept emphasizing on this thing called the love tank. Yeah, I mean, we are not going to go so much into that, but essentially, we need to actually pay attention to the love tank, the emotional well-being of our partner and ourselves. Well, because in the course of our work, actually, we did a lot of research. And one research actually showed there's this magical ratio, and this magical ratio, they derive it by actually observing couples over time. They did a lot of recording. They kind of decode what they observed in those recordings, and they find that for every 1 negative experience in a relationship, you kind of need 5. It's a ratio of 1:5. 5 positive interaction to kind of balance it. So once again, I can't emphasize enough how relationship is very, very deliberate. You put in effort for it. If you don't believe me, you think about it yourself. If you are in a relationship, or you have been in a relationship, you think about, what do you remember what your partner say about you? You list down the things, right? More often than not, your list probably have more negative things, or in fact, maybe at least minimally disproportionate negative things and positive things. You pass it to your partner will say that, wow, you only remember all the bad things I say about you. You don't remember any of the good things that I say about you, or you don't remember any of the good things that I do together with you or for you. Yeah. So the magical ratio is 1:5. So let's strive to catch our partner doing good. Once again, if we call this an antidote, just now the example that I put under contempt, you're just like your dad. I can forget about depending on you to take care of me. That sounds really, really awful. What can you do? Hey, I really want you to know that I appreciate you taking care of the bills while I was busy working with other things. I love you. Okay, so instead of one moment where actually you wanted this person to do something and this person didn't manage to do it, are you able to catch your partner doing good and to share with your partner what's your observation? Yeah, my typical line is always, let's not take things for granted. Yeah. So your partner need to hear that as well. The antidote. In terms of defensiveness, if you recall, our 3rd horseman was defensiveness. To reduce defensiveness, let's go back once again to us being kids. Whenever we get caught for fighting, what was the common response? I know mine. I have a younger brother, and honestly, we were always fighting when we were younger. I was always trying to also attribute blame to my younger brother. I'll tell my mom, he drew my paper, that's why I hit him. I mean, if he didn't draw it, I wouldn't have hit him. My mom being my mom, I mean, I do not know what's a typical mom or what's not, you know, good that she's fair enough. It was very typical of her. She punished the both of us. While I didn't necessarily felt best about being punished, I have to really admit that I definitely felt better than if mom actually blamed everything on me. The 3rd antidote to defensiveness is being able to take responsibility for part of the conflict. And don't get me wrong here once again, it is important to not consider this as accepting responsibility that you yourself don't accept. I would like to invite you to see interaction as a two-way traffic. So very likely in the entire conflict, there might be certain things that we can do better. For example, all I wanted to do was to help you out there. I don't understand why you have to kick up a big fuss all the time. That was what we said when we were talking about defensiveness just now. See, you're trying to do good and you got scolded for it. When I talk about taking responsibility, what can it potentially sound like? I thought I would like to help you out when I noted that you were very busy there. Thinking back, I could have checked in with you if you would like me to take over some of the tasks. When you do that, it is a way to help our partner feel safer and less sense of being attacked there. It prevents escalation of the defensiveness and conflict when our partner also sees our effort in communicating the situation in a less threatening manner. It tends to help our partner feel more ready to talk about the issue together with us, showing him or her that we are in this together. Last but not least, in our session today, the fourth antidote to look at stonewalling. Remember how I say that that is one of the most challenging things to do, to break out of? Stonewalling is a general response when we are in a heightened state of arousal. As mentioned earlier, communication is rarely possible when at least one party is feeling swarmed with emotion. So it is very important for us to allow these heightened moments to settle down so that we can explore further. Failing to do that can sometimes result in very explosive interactions which are not helpful. The very first step that I would like you to think about when you realize that either you or your partner is in one of these states is to identify, know that you are in a heightened state. The good thing about heightened arousal is it hardly stays high for an extended period of time. It does varies from person to person, but generally I'll say that a good half an hour might be a good gauge. Having said that, it is important to know that everyone is different. So don't fall into the pursuer withdrawal symptom once again and start playing catching by telling your partner that, hey, 30 minutes is up, can we talk now? Okay? Have a common understanding with your partner that when he or she is ready, he or she will approach you to re-engage in conversation. During this period, it is also useful for the person who finds yourself in a stonewalling state to engage in some ways to reduce the anxiety and negative emotion. So if you find yourself, instead of saying never mind, to get yourself some breathing space, some time out for the heightened emotions to sit down, maybe try something like, dear, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. Is it okay for us to take a little break before coming back to the discussion? Okay, so these are the 4 antidotes that I would like to introduce to all of you today. This is a very, very quick summary. We will actually be sharing this on our Facebook page subsequently. Yeah, you could also take reference from the Godsman's website. And if you're thinking about trying out some of these antidotes, start small. Start with something that's comfortable for you. Don't try to do something that you think is totally out of your league. Okay, that's kind of setting yourself up for failure. But among all the antidotes that you mentioned, right? See, for example, one of the things that I might suggest, usually I start out with couples, something that's relatively easier, is to catch yourself when you use a lot of you statement. You are always like this, you're always like, it's okay, we all go into that whole thing. But if you can catch yourself doing that, right, you take a pause and see whether you have way to change it to an I statement. The other small things that usually I get couples who are not familiar, they'll tell me, oh, in English is super artificial. It's like, it sort of feels so fake. Then usually my thing is, good. If you think that it's fake right now, right, fake it until be such a good actor or actress that you fake it until it becomes real. Do it so often as with any new behavior. A new behavior is always very difficult to acquire, but do it enough, it becomes who you are. That's how we learn a lot of things in life. That's how we acquire a lot of behaviors. So the other thing that I tend to start couples with is catch your partner doing good. Remember my policewoman just now? Instead of a policewoman or policeman for your partner doing bad, try out. Actually, maybe this is something that all of you in the room tonight, maybe you can consider trying out tonight. Think about, go and observe your partner. When you found him or her doing something that's positive, see if you can give an affirmation. Praise him or her. I can tell you, if you are not used to doing it, your partner will think that you are crazy. But important thing is, does your partner think it's a good crazy or bad crazy? Is this a crazy that makes your partner feel good? So if it's a good crazy, can we continue to be crazy happily? Yeah. So Start really, really small. If certain things are really way too difficult for you right now, it's totally okay. You don't have to stretch yourself too much. And once you acquire some of this behavior, you can start doing the rest of the behavior. So it does take a lot of practice. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to pop up the rest of our information that we have on our slides. Don't worry about missing out any of all these things, because we're going to post all these things on our Facebook after our session. So prepare and reach. Anyone, lastly, if anyone who wants to, actually, I mean, 1 hour, there's only this much I can cover. If you and your partner are interested to find out more about your relationship, kind of find out more about your strength, your growth area, we do have a program called the Prepare and Reach. It's customized for every single couple, 4 to 6 sessions. If you are interested to find out more, I'm going to leave our contact details later on. It's essentially a accredited and internationally validated tool to identify for your particular relationship. Based on your response, you will have a report on what are some of the areas to work on and what are some of the strengths that you want to build on. Okay, we have done this bit. So these are our contact details. If you do have any further questions for us, if you would like to maybe speak to a therapist because there are certain things that you think you would like to maybe sort some professional support on, feel free to contact us at contact@viria.org.sg. And we do have our counseling hotline at 6256-1311 as well.